headline story: petrol pricing in Nigeria. The spotlight has once again fallen on Nigeria's oil and gas sector, specifically as it affects the pump price of petrol, or PMS. Recently, the Nigeria Governors Forum agreed to remove the subsidy on petrol, which would push the price to between 380 to 408 naira. Nigeria supposedly deregulated its downstream oil sector a year ago after the COVID-19 pandemic triggered by a collapse in the global price of oil, her main export. However, the state oil firm, that's the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, continued subsidy payment since it was the sole importer of fuel into the country. So we're back here again. Should subsidy remain? Who has the power to set the price? Why is NNPC still the only importer? Where are the refineries? So many questions. Let's see if we can get you some answers on today's show. I'm Tolulokwe Adeleru Balogun. Welcome. This is Business Edge. Now, there's been a lot of conversation regarding deregulating Nigeria's downstream oil and gas sector, but movements and actions have not matched the conversation. In March 2020, Nigeria's Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Timipre Silva, announced that government was set to implement the deregulation of the downstream sector, and that was to start with the removal of subsidy. However, organized labor unions rejected this. They argued that the increase would further worsen inflation and the electricity tariff had also been increased. But a year later, a move by the Petroleum Products Pricing Regulatory Agency raised dust on the issue. A possible new template was cancelled and the retail price maintained at 162 naira per litre. The NNPC admitted to spending between 100 and 120 billion naira a month on petrol subsidy. That is the latest in the timeline concerning that. And then we come to last week, where the Nigeria Governors Forum announced a new pump price. Let's see what that means for the Nigerians. All right, joining me is Group CEO, Nest Oil and Century Power as well, Dr. Chukwueluka Ume. He is a returning guest, and we've had a conversation like this before, but here we are again, once again, looking at deregulating Nigeria's oil and gas sector, specifically the pump price. My very first question has to be this, because I think I know the answer, and many Nigerians know the answer, but there seems to be some confusion when it comes to the statement from the Nigeria Governors Forum in terms of setting a new pump price for petrol in the country. Whose responsibility is it? What is their involvement supposed to be?
Well, thanks for having me, Tolu. It's always a pleasure to be here. You know, there's a lot of confusion in the country today about many things. But as far as the pricing for products, the only body that's supposed to set the pricing is PPPRA. That's the Petroleum Product Pricing Regulatory Agency. It's their job to say how much products should be sold for based on the price of bringing it in, newer charges, MPA charges, the exchange rate, and so on and so forth. That's their job. So the governors, as far as I know, have no say in what that price should be.
Do you think that their movement is going to prompt, as we are having this conversation, prompt some possible action in seeing a new pricing template be released?
Well, I don't really know if that's going to change much. I mean, the template comes from PPPRA, and while the governors can speak, I mean, there are a lot of different things. The governors may be thinking about the people in the states and how the price increase will affect them. But at the end of the day, is this what we really should be talking about? Or should we be talking about how to get money in people's pockets so that no matter what the fuel price is, they can pay for it?
Yeah, very true. All right, so let's go back in history. So in March, the PPRA, just last month in history actually, released a new pricing template showing that the retail pump price should range from about 209 naira to about 212 naira per litre. This was pegged on an average oil price of $62 per barrel for February and an exchange rate of about 403 naira to the dollar. While there were a lot of noise over the possible increase in petrol with the template dropped on the PPRA's websites, one other issue came up, that the NNPC was still subsidizing petrol, even after saying that that wasn't happening. So I remember the last time we had this conversation, I asked you plainly if there was still subsidy on petrol in Nigeria. So we're back to this. It's like we're back to square one. A few movements forward, a few conversations, but no definitive action. Why is Nigeria still subsidizing petrol?
That is a very big question. And I asked that question not just for petrol, but across several different sectors. You know, if we're going to get serious about fixing this country, about fixing the economy, we shouldn't be subsidizing petrol or electricity. The prices should be what they are meant to be to drive the industry. What we should subsidize are things like healthcare, education, things that people actually need. And then we should create an enabling environment for people to be able to create businesses that the states can support so people can make money.
So there's wealth.
Right, because you can keep the price of petrol at, 100 naira or even 50 naira. But people still need money to buy it. And a lot of people are out of pocket. Our GDP is dropping. The inflation is rising. And the economy is slowing down. Prices of everything are going up. So whether you peg the petrol price at a low price or not, it doesn't make much of a difference. And think about this at the end of the day. Fuel subsidy, who really benefits from fuel subsidy?
That's been one of the largest questions. And in recent times, you would have seen newspaper reports that said that the amount of petrol consumed in Nigeria has gone up. And then you wonder, okay, it's going up. There's still subsidy in place. Who at the end benefits? So answer your own question. Who do you think benefits?
Well, let's start with how does the petrol get into this country? Think about it. We import about, 60% of the AGO we use in the country. About 80% or 90% of the PMS that we use in this country, 100% of the jet fuel that we use in this country. Who imports it? We say it's NNPC, right? But there are private companies that import this, and they make a profit. So let's start from there. People are making a profit bringing these products in. As it should be.
They're actually expending to bring it in.
I hear you. People make a profit bringing it in. And then who uses these products? You find a lot of us supposed elites. We drive high-performance cars. They're gas guzzlers. But at the end of the day, the price of petrol that we pay is small compared to what we're benefiting, right? But the people, the masses, at the end of the day, they're the ones suffering, whatever the price of these products are. So what I say is we should take a different look about how we do this. We export our oil. Some other people add value to the oil and then bring it back and we buy it. Those jobs that we could have created by having our refineries working are not there. Today, the 4 refineries across the country are not working. They haven't been working for a couple of years now. Now, a few people are still employed by those refineries just to keep some of the machines in relatively okay state so that we can go back and do the turnaround maintenance and have them working. But what about the thousands of other people that should benefit from those jobs? They're not benefiting. So at the end of the day, we're throwing money away. Monies that could have been generated and kept in Nigeria are being thrown away. So who's the biggest loser? Nigerians.
It's interesting you bring up the refineries because I did want to touch on that. So we have 4 refineries in Nigeria, 2 in Port Harcourt, 1 each in Kaduna and Warri. And for many people, they're not working in optimal states at all. The refineries all have an installed capacity combined of about 445,000 barrels per day. The latest news on the refineries is that the government announced that they had rewarded a rehabilitation contract for the Port Harcourt refinery valued at $1.5 billion. Now, this entails engineering, procurement, construction activities for the full rehabilitation of the complex, aimed at restoring the complex to a minimum of 90% of its nameplate capacity. $1.5 billion. Is it worth it? Should we not be looking at a new refinery? Should we not be looking at private refineries, even though there has been some movement towards the modular refineries for private individuals? But Nigeria, at this point in time, spending 1.5 billion naira to turn around $1 billion, I beg your pardon, to turn around a refinery that has not worked in how many years? Are we spending money? Are we throwing money down that same sink again?
If you ask me, I would have said privatize all the refineries. Government should get out of that business. Privatize them and just provide regulation. However, if we want to sell those 4 refineries today, who would buy? The people would not really pay much to buy those refineries. So
governments would go at a loss?
Well, that's what we believe. But in my opinion, old assets like that should be sold at whatever price we can get. There are not many people that will agree to buy those refineries in the current state. So the government's thinking is probably, let's spend this money, bring these refineries up to a working state, and then sell them, maybe about 90% availability, and sell them. Is that a good thing to do? Maybe, maybe not. But think about this. If we were to build Port Harcourt refinery, for example, today, Port Harcourt refinery does about 210,000 barrels of oil per day, right, refining capacity. We will spend about $7 to $8 billion to build it. So the argument is, should we spend the small, relatively small compared to the amount of money it will take to buy, the 1.5 billion, to bring it up to about 90% capacity and then sell it? Or should we just sell them the way they are? In my opinion, we should take that money, use it to create subsidies for people in other places, use it to help people build businesses in other places, and let someone else go build the new refineries. Think about this. India, for example, has 23 refineries working today. The 3 largest ones are owned by private companies. The largest one is called Jamnagar Refinery, right? And Jamnagar does about 668,000 barrels of oil per day. Compare this to Nigeria. That's much larger than anything we do here. Our total capacity in Nigeria is about 410,000 barrels a day. Now, Dangote's refinery is supposed to come up and do 650,000 barrels of oil per day, but that refinery has been delayed and delayed. And what we're hearing now is probably going to come up in 2023. So again, we continue to be in this quagmire. And it's not just the refinery. People need to think about the long-term effects of what we're doing to ourselves. It doesn't make sense that we produce a raw material, we send it out, send it overseas. India is probably the 3rd largest importer of oil in the world, right? After US and China. They refine and sell it back to us. So the value addition that we were supposed to do to the oil, we're losing out on it. I think some of the people in the government understand this. The GMD of NNPC, Mr. Kyari, understands this, and I know he's pushing hard to try and change this narrative. But he's not, he can't do this alone. He can't. You need the private sector to help you drive this.
But the private sector will only come when you have things on ground. We still have the petroleum industry bill. It's unpassed. It's meant to address some of these issues that are part of it, but it's now the longest bill that has been in our National Assembly, in our democracy, and it's yet to be passed. So why would a private sector get involved when obviously there's confusion that remains in the sector and in the industry?
The last time you and I spoke, I will always tell you that you need to put square pegs in square holes and round pegs in round holes. Unfortunately, some of our lawmakers would be better served doing other things.
I'm afraid to ask what those other things might be.
I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to go there. We have some really smart people helping to drive to create policies, right? But we have some other people who don't really understand. Do we blame them? This is the Nigerian system that has created what we see today. And I think, really, we need to go back to basics. We need to do a basic reset. When I sit in my office and I think about our situation as a country, I want to cry. Because we have so many resources in this country, but we're not getting the benefits of those resources. Even in agriculture, we still import agricultural products in this country. Milk, for example, I was having a conversation with a colleague of mine this morning. We import powdered milk, liquid milk, but we have cattle in Nigeria.
They might be starving.
We don't have a dairy industry. Well, if we have cattle, we know the right way to do ranching.
Exactly.
Because other nations do ranching, right? Argentina does it. South Africa does it. So there's the US. They know how to do ranching.
And we're not trying to reinvent the wheel.
No, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. People know how to do these things.
Okay, let's talk about our revenue, because I think it's interesting when we have this conversation. It can't just be a standalone. It's all part of a larger picture, as you said. So Nigeria's overall revenue is down. So let's look at some of the numbers. According to data from the Budget Office, Nigeria has spent 29.3 trillion naira in the last 10 years on non-debt recurrent expenditure. In the same period, the country earned 33.2 trillion naira. Nigeria has recorded a budget deficit every year since 2009, averaging about 1.1 trillion naira in the 5 years before the Buhari administration came into power in 2015. However, since 2015, budget deficits have averaged 3.3 trillion naira. Looking at where the country's finances are, how much longer can Nigeria afford to subsidize petrol? Or subsidize anything, as you said earlier?
I would say that we needed to get out of these subsidies years ago.
And we missed many opportunities to actually do it.
And, unfortunately, when the subsidies are about to be removed, the labor organization and some other parties will come up and strike. We understand what they're trying to do, but the information that they need to make the right decision on whether to strike or not is not really there. Unfortunately, a lot of Nigerians are not well informed about our policies. They're not well informed about our economy. And they're not really well informed about what we should be doing as a nation. Think about this. Why would we in Nigeria today import products that are made of clay? But we have clay deposits. Why would we import some cement into this country? Why would we import petrochemicals?
Which are byproducts of the same crude oil that we are exploring and
these
exporting.
are questions that people need to really be addressing. But unfortunately, because of hunger, the clear and present danger to people is starvation.
Yeah.
So everyone is looking, or most people are looking for how to make money today. We're not thinking about tomorrow.
If they're hungry today and they know they'll be hungry tomorrow, how can they think about tomorrow? They must first focus on feeding today.
And that's the unfortunate quagmire we find ourselves in. And to pull ourselves out of that quagmire is going to take strong, focused, informed leadership.
Let me take you up on something. So we agree, and many analysts agree, that Nigeria has missed many opportunities to get rid of subsidy. But is there ever a good time? Possibly no, but is now the time? So we're coming out of a pandemic that has hit the whole world. People have lost jobs, income is down, households are down to maybe one person working as it is now. Inflation has stalled just a bit, food prices are high, electricity prices have gone up before, and there is now talk about electricity tariffs rising again. Is now the time for Nigeria to consider removing subsidy?
Anytime is a good time. And if you can kick the can down the road for as long as you want, and there'll never be a very good time. But think about this. If we remove those subsidies today and take some of this money that we're using to do the subsidies and actually put it in the hands of people, we have many ways of actually getting money in people's hands. You know, we said during the pandemic that some monies were sent out to people. I never
Cash
received
transfer.
any money.
You're not in line.
Right? And a lot of people I know, in fact, nobody I know got the money. But we have ways of getting this money to people. I mean, we all have the NIN, right?
Yeah.
So it's a no-brainer, right? If we really want to get money into people's pockets, we know how much taxes people pay. We know who is paying the taxes. We know who is poor and who is in the middle class and who is in the upper echelon. We know we have ways of getting money into people's pockets to help them. I mean, even countries like the US that are supposed to be very wealthy nations, they did the same thing.
Yeah.
Why can't we do it in Nigeria? So if we remove subsidies, we can get money in people's pockets directly to help them. And in the long run, removing the subsidies will be good for the country's economy as a whole. And guess what? These people that we're trying to protect today will be the ones that will benefit down the line.
But we have to come back to that short term. And I know there's a lot of people who talk about the short term thinking of Nigerians. In the short term, transport will go up, food prices will go, everything will go. Even things that don't have to do with petrol necessarily will also go up. It's that protection, but you're giving an idea now in terms of how to sort of stabilize and protect the populace from shock. I want to go back to the statement from the NGF, and they put the price at about 380 to about 408 naira. We can all agree Nigerians are not paying the real price of petrol. What do you think the real price of petrol would be on the market today if subsidy was removed?
Well, that question is very loaded because there's so many things that go into setting the price of petrol. If we're producing that petrol here in Nigeria, I can tell you what it is. But if we're importing it, all bets are off.
So many external factors.
Right? So can we really pick a number that's the right number? Right now, I think we're just taking a stab in the dark. For me, you're right. We keep looking at the short term, right? And we're always thinking about short term in Nigeria. We don't build massive infrastructure because we're thinking short term. You know, we need to take the long term approach. Yeah. And this is the only way that we can actually start to get some of this infrastructure right. I mean, think about this. A woman in the market selling tomatoes will tell you the price of tomatoes have gone up because dollar went up. She doesn't even know what the dollar rate is. But for her, she knows that she pays more money to get transport to go and get that product where she buys it from. The people farming will tell you that it costs them more to produce and actually get this product out. This is all true. But if some of these other things were subsidized, then the price can be a little lower. You know, the price of these commodities that people pay for will be a little lower. You know, in the electricity industry, for example, I say tariffs have gone up. Yeah. But tariffs haven't gone up for the poorest people in the country. It still remains the same. And it will remain the same for a long time. Prices have gone up for people in the mid to upper classes, right? For companies. True. Is it the right thing to do? I hate to say it, but it is the right thing to do for the country, as long as the extra cash that we were using to subsidize these industries actually goes to do things in the country that will benefit the people. If we don't do that, then it's not worth doing.
So we haven't had really official statements from the NNPC or the PPPRA on what the governors have said. What do you think happens next? Because it feels like oftentimes with politicians and economic issues in Nigeria, someone tests the water to see what the reception will be and how Nigerians will react. What do you think is coming next?
Well, I think these prices will go up. I think they're going to go up.
This year, even though they've said they're holding prices for June?
Well, we were told that petrol price won't go up.
Yeah.
Several years ago, it has gone up several times. We were told that electricity price will never go up. It has gone up. We were told that dollar rate is not going to change. It has changed, almost doubled from when we remember. So we're told many things, but those things don't really come to pass. And unfortunately, I mean, we don't sit in the government, so we can't really tell you all the things that they're seeing. I mean, when you're in government, then you get to get more data. Where we sit in the private sector, we can only speak on the data that we get, which has its limitations. But as business people, I'm asking myself, if I was running a refinery, for example, as a private company, and we're not producing, will I still keep a lot of the staff I have, or will I lay everybody off? I probably lay everybody off.
Cut your cost.
Do you understand? But are we doing that? No. Think about this. A lot of people that work in these establishments are government employees. And so whether the companies are profitable or not, they're still going to keep their jobs. If you fire a lot of the people, what's going to happen? The communities are going to rise up, and that's what's happening. And when the communities rise up in arms, the government is forced to take some people back. So as long as we continue to run these institutions as government-owned properties, we're going to have the same situation. And it cuts across everything. Electricity, it's in power. I mean, it's in oil and gas. It's in aviation. It's in petrochemicals. It's everywhere. I keep saying it, and I'm going to continue to say it. Government has no business in business. Government has a place in regulation and creating the right playing field, the right environment for investors to come in. Go do your own job and let investors do their job. And
I think that's the best note to end this conversation on. I'm not sure we're going to be back here, but unfortunately, as a Nigerian, I think we'll be back to this conversation because, as I said earlier, there's a lot of movement, there's a lot of conversation, but the action and the conversation don't necessarily match when it comes to the issue of subsidy and deregulation of petroleum, as well as the oil and gas industry in Nigeria. I have to say a very big thank you to my guest, the Group CEO of Nest Oil Limited, Dr. Chukweluka Ume, CEO of joining us today. And of course, I know he'll honor our invitation again next time. Quickly, let's run you through a few stories we're keeping our eyes on with NC4 to watch. We start with this one. S&P Global and Fitch Ratings have affirmed South Africa's long-term sovereign credit rating on Friday at BB-, which is 3 notches below investment grade. Number 2 on that list, a license to operate telecommunication services in Ethiopia has been awarded to Kenya's telco giant Safaricom in a consortium made up of Vodafone, Japan's Sumitomo, and UK finance agency CDC Group. Number 3 on our list, CBZ Holdings Limited, the biggest bank in Zimbabwe, plans to list on the US dollar-denominated stock exchange in Victoria Falls as part of efforts to ignite foreign interest in the lender. And finally, on NC4 to watch, sell pressure is high at the stock market ahead of the Central Bank of Nigeria's Monetary Policy Committee meeting, which starts today. It has triggered some high volatility of equities trading at the Nigerian Exchange Limited. And that's it on Business Edge. Don't forget to follow us on social media. And of course, head to our website, our YouTube channel, and download our mobile app for all the latest business, economic, and financial news coming from the continent. Until next time, I'm Tolulope Adileru Balogun.